Now, it may not be the most important thing right now, but the crisis has obviously had a huge impact on sport. Wimbledon was cancelled yesterday and the Grand National will not be going ahead on Saturday. Those two events alone could involve £750 million. Well, Formula One, possibly the most commercial sport in the world, has cancelled the first 8 races in the calendar, but Formula One teams are doing their bit. We spoke to McLaren about ventilators earlier in the week, and Mercedes is working with the NHS to supply breathing equipment too. Well, my next guest knows Mercedes F1 because he won the World Championship with them in 2016. He now champions investment in green technology, having founded to the Green Tech Festival. And I can speak to him now live from Ibiza. That's Nico Rosberg. Welcome to you, Nico. What's your assessment of how the F1 authorities have handled this crisis?
I'm very, very proud, really, of my sport and particularly about my former team. Because and it just shows the technical and engineering excellence that we have in Formula One. It's second to none how quickly Mercedes has now been able to produce and develop this breathing aid, which essentially is going to save many, many lives. And that's really wonderful. And I'm very, very impressed.
But what about the cancellation of the events themselves, Nico? Lewis Hamilton said that some races should have been cancelled earlier than they were. Do you agree with that?
I think they did a fair job. I mean, it's always difficult. You have to measure the pros and cons, and I think eventually they did cancel Australia, and so they've done a good job and put the health of everybody on top of everything else. Of course, it was a big disappointment as well at the same time for all of us fans around the world, because we were so excited to see the first race go ahead and to finally see what's what. But health always comes first, and so they're doing the right thing, certainly.
As you say, Mercedes producing breathing equipment for the NHS. I mean, this crisis really has showcased the technological abilities of the F1 teams, hasn't it?
Oh, totally. As I said, they are just so incredibly good. And not only the breathing aid that Mercedes has developed, now also all the F1 teams have joined forces. It's called Project Pit Lane, and they're now going to be producing ventilators as well. Because as we know, there's a huge shortage in ventilators. So this is going to be the next step now coming shortly. And as I said, I'm super proud and yeah, amazing that they're doing that.
Well, as I said in the introduction, since you left F1, you've been championing investment in green technology. Do you worry that that's going to fall away on the back burner with this coronavirus crisis? I mean, we've just seen COP26 cancelled, for example.
Certainly in the short term, yes, the focus, rightly so, is now on fighting this virus, because that is the most important matter for our health and globally. But then I think after Corona, and there will be a time after Corona, hopefully very, very soon, after that I do believe that the environmental issue is going to jump right back up to the top of the agenda again, because this is the decade which is crucial. And myself, in all my business endeavors, I'm very much focused on being involved in helping to preserve the environment, which is why I also created the Green Tech Festival, which is really centered around preserving the environment. And I think Corona also actually gave us a great opportunity to see where we need to get to, because if we look at like some of the NASA images from China, it's phenomenal. You can all see them online. It's phenomenal how the whole emissions and smog just dropped down like unbelievably in the short space of time where everybody was just staying at home. It was incredible, and that's really given us a guideline to where we need to get to, and that's where technology comes in, because technology is what is the tool that's going to help us get to where we need to be in terms of emissions.
And in terms of appetite from investors, you haven't seen any lessening of appetite to invest in green technology during the current crisis?
No, of course, as with everything is just completely at zero. Nobody's doing anything. And I mean, that's understandable, because it's an incredible shock to everybody what's going on. And my thoughts really, I mean, I'm in a super privileged situation because we're in our house in Spain. We have a garden, so our kids can have a good time outside. And I know that, and we know that as a family. So our thoughts are always going out to everybody who's affected so badly by this virus, and particularly in the UK as well. I have so many friends and ex-colleagues who I know are struggling through this. So we're thinking a lot about all of you in the UK and everybody else around the world.
As you say, the situation in Spain seems particularly parlous right now. Just give me a sense of what it's like on the ground there right now in terms of how it's impacted day-to-day life.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that I'm not even allowed to go out of my gate since 3 weeks. So I don't know what's going on outside, and I don't read the Spanish press. But of course, from the international press, I know that it's only second to Italy at the moment, and probably New York, being in an unbelievably difficult situation with just the whole health system being overloaded. And that's why it's so important to test and test and test, to be able to find the cases as early as possible and to put everybody in quarantine to help slow the rise in infections, and that's really the goal for every nation. And I know that you in Britain as well are now massively trying to reduce the infection rate going up, and that's what's gone wrong in Spain and Italy, because it's just too little has been done too late, because things are just too extreme.